on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
To have his entire savings account.
Welcome back, Lagos, Nigeria, wherever you're listening to. Welcome back to Borderlines. You all know what happened. Senegal has a new president. Yes, the Senegalese democracy was saved. It is intact. Remember, I had my guest last week, Imoh Edet. Well, he's joining me again because I've got, we can't say I told you to, but I've got to say, Imoh, this is not what you told me would happen. So I'm going to need him to explain to us exactly what happened. And then I have another guest, Austin Aigbe. So let me introduce you to both of them, right? Austin is a member of West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. Austin works to support inclusive democracy and governance. His interest includes international politics, democracy development, electoral integrity, gender equality, women's political participation, globalization, and countering mis or disinformation, particularly in elections. So you see, I've got important guests. So Austin is my first guest, or rather, it's going to be a debate between both of them. My other guest is Imoh Edet. As you know, like I said, he was here last week. Imoh is the senior broadcast journalist in Dakar, Senegal. Imoh, prior to joining WADR, worked with an Abuja-based news channel, Roots TV, as a senior anchor. With about 19 years experience in electronic and print media, Imoh's work cuts across all platforms. He has a diploma in mass comm. Right, Imoh, Charles, are you both there? Can you hear me? I can see Charles, but I don't think I can see Imoh yet. Hello?
Which of the charts can you see?
Who am I looking at? Charles? Sorry, I meant Austin rather. Austin Aigbe. Austin, is that you?
Exactly.
I thought
that
so.
was why I was asking you. I thought that you changed my name from Austin to Charles.
I had my previous guest was Charles. Forgive me. Thank you for joining us. Now I need to know if Imoh, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Excellent, Imoh. Welcome.
And I think you got an abridged version of my profile.
Well, we don't have much time, so I had to just read much as I could. Right. Okay.
No problem.
My technical people, I need to see both my guests on my screen, please, because this is going to be very interesting. Austin, Aigbe, and Imoh Edet. So, Imoh, I'm going to come to you first. You were here last week. I see you're smiling.
Yes.
But last week, let me accuse you. I'll be accusatory, shall I? You said Baye would not win. And today, Baye is your president. What happened?
I am taking back my words. I mean, there were some of the things we saw here and, felt it may not really go far. But again, people really wanted a change. They wanted the election to hold. And they were really tired of the independent set of rulers, independent elite. And they wanted a new generation. So their voice really counted. I am taking back all of those words. Same with other people that have thought the MiFi will not go far. But again, I mean, he beats us to that, and we really give it to him. At this point, I think all he needs is just the full support from all areas, even we journalists and all of that, to really move on. We know and we have discussed. Not so much is known about this man, and he has a very, very low profile. You can take the man from the village to the prison, and from the prison to the palace. So, and then on his 44th birthday, so it's history in the making. History, that is being engraved, in the minds and hearts of the Senegalese people.
Okay.
It's something that generations to come, will remember and we'll keep talking about.
Well, I'm glad you did accept that, or you admit. I'm glad you admit to have been wrong. And, and I think, of course, in these things, 6 of this and half a dozen of the other. The signs are pointing one way, and all of a sudden, everything changes. And one of the things you said was about the fact that a lot of his supporters didn't have voting cards, which is what I'm going to come to Austin about. Austin, when you heard that Faye won in Senegal, right, given how young he is, what is he, 43, 44, juxtaposing
44.
that, right, 44, juxtaposing that with Nigeria's last election, with the fact that up until he won, it was believed in Senegal that a lot of his supporters didn't have voters' cards. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'm happy that I'm joining this conversation with my very good friend. I'm truly surprised. I'm truly surprised that with Imoh, of all people who said that I was not going to win the election. So the thing is this: before I answer the question, I'll try to give you a bit of a background. Maybe that way I knew Faye was going to win the election. I saw it coming. I literally saw it coming from a perspective anyway. Maybe I was also wrong. If he had lost, would have been like Imoh talking about whether he will win and all of that. So this is it. If you look at the historical context of Senegal, Senegal has the best democracy in West Africa. We need to establish that. It's a democracy where the people are committed to promoting their democracy. It's a country where the people stand for and believe in their democracy. So they select their own leaders. They are very conscious of who leads them. But what I'm talking about now is a little bit above a decade. Of course, Imoh knows the struggle of the Senegalese in 2012. When the people stood against a man who wanted to perpetuate himself in power for a third-term bid. The people rose against him and took him out. It was worse than what Macky Sall did now. It was worse. People fled the country to mobilize international support for a free, credible election in Senegal. Now we are back in 2012. If you see what happened days before the election, far back in November, December, where there was protest because there was speculations that Macky Sall was going to run for a third term. Protest came back to Senegal. People said, no, you can't go for third term. You can't. And the moment the people go against you, everything about you dies. Your candidate for the election will automatically die. It's historic. I'm talking from historical perspective.
Yeah.
And they will just hate you, transfer the hatred. They transfer the hatred to your preferred candidate. In this case, Ba. Now, Faye was in prison. Of course, you will assume that somebody in prison will never win election. Sonko, who is his mentor and, of course, his collaborator, which I'm avoiding the word godfather, who literally is his godfather, who replaces. The question is, it is not Faye who won the election. It is Sonko who won the election.
We're going to come to that relationship.
Because
I want you to save that relationship till later. I really want us to talk about it. Go on.
I'm actually looking at the background why I think Faye was going to win the election.
Okay.
So now back to
the
question about what linking that to Nigeria, for example. Is that even though there are different entities, sincerely there are different entities, when we started fighting for our own democracy, there was no way around Senegal. Today we are talking about Senegal. years ago, far back in 97, 98, 99, Nigeria was on top of the game in terms of the fight for democracy. We will go on the street, mobilize against the military and fight the military. Many people died in the struggle for democracy in this country. But soon after, the activists, the likes of late Gani Fawemi, the likes of the living Femi Falana, and a host of others, after we won democracy, apparently the real Democrats went back the scene and thought that we have had an end to meet, rather than unknowing that by the time you leave the vacuum, they'll become an empty space. People will feel it. And what we have back in Nigeria is something that is called an animal farm, where simply people like us, Nigerians, went into the same shoes of the tax masters because we did not remove the shoes away. So I think Nigerians, of course, if you look at the last election, there was a great deal of citizens organizing, citizen mobilization. But like you said, I will save the issue of institutional strengthening for later.
Okay, right. So, Imoh, I'm going to come to you now. Fire said, I pledge to govern with humility and transparency and to fight corruptions at all levels. That's a quote. He went on to say, I pledge to devote myself fully to rebuilding our institutions. Does he have the capability to do that? What is he going to be facing? What are the issues, the blockades, the big giants that he's going to have to slay if he's going to fulfill those promises?
Yeah, well, I think at this point, see, he may not really face much of opposition in terms of, rejigging the institutions that he has mentioned, and promising to rule humbly and all of that. There won't really be much of opposition because right now the road seems to have been cleared for him. The fact that he was able to break even, beating the likes of Ahmad Ba, Ali Fassal, and Karim Wan and the rest of them. I don't think he may face any stiff opposition because now, unlike us in the analyze, he has the support of the people, and that's the most important thing. The fact that the people now realize that look, we can actually do something or say something, and it will happen. I mean, that is what played out. So, if at all there will be any resistance or opposition in terms of, rejigging the constitution or strengthening the constitution, the institutions rather, I think it may just be those that have been there for a longer time, and perhaps those who had wanted Macky Sall and maybe Ahmad Ba to continue, or the ruling coalition brought about Yaka to be in power. But as it is, I don't see him facing any obstacle. The moment he won this election, I mean, all roads have been open. The night he won the election, the night of the election, I mean, the Senegalese Eurobond was fluctuating. People weren't sure whether to, keep their money or take out their money. But by the time they got to a certain level of the result being announced and they saw the trends and the fact that, he was really leading, I was going to win, the entire diaspora vote went to him. Eurobond, rallied. So there's a whole lot of support that he'll be getting if he really and genuinely wants to do all of that. And part of the thing he said he was going to, touch is to review some of the contracts that were signed in this era of Macky Sall, the oil contracts, because Senegal in December will become an oil-producing country, and that's very key. But again, we fear that by the time Senegal starts producing the oil, the same thing that happened or is happening to Nigeria, happening to Ghana, may happen to Senegal. But I'm hoping that his godfather will guide him, and all of the people who had wanted change for Senegal, will guide him through. So it's very clean. We're just waiting to see what plays out in the coming days.
Thank you.
Not much really in terms of, we know he hasn't been in government. He hasn't really been there. Everything is still like a dream right now to him. Maybe the next 2-3 months, it will dawn on him that he is the president of the nation and perhaps can now be bold enough to take certain decisions which we feel may be influenced by Sonko.
Yeah.
We can't rule out Sonko playing
we're going to talk about Sonko. We've got a good 20 minutes conversation that we have to unpack, unravel Sonko. And I've got some really strong questions that I want to put to both of you once we get this whole election out of the way. Austin, tell me something. Imoh reckons, as you heard him say, the road is pretty much clear for Faye to achieve those promises. Really? Does he have 3 months to wake up to reality? Is the road really that clear? Or could there be, how do we say, something where they for corner where they come by time? Don't you dare laugh at my pigeon. Don't you dare laugh at my pigeon, Austin. All right, otherwise the line will disconnect. But you know what I mean.
It was Imoh that was laughing.
I'm listening. Austin.
Okay, so yes, about clarity about the future of Faye.
Well, no, about whether he has a clear road. Whether he has a clear road to achieve those promises that he's made.
Yes, that's why I said the future of Faye. Yes, it does have a clear road, and I think it does have it. Because the struggle for this presidency, we said we should not be mentioning Sonko, but there's actually nothing we'll say without mentioning
without opening Sonko.
The struggle for this presidency started with a very strong alliance against Maki. And of course, all of the people who supported Maki far back in 2012 literally are also the ones who now want to take his position. And this Maki is not really, apparently thinking that it is not done yet. After all, it still technically has 2 more years to go if he had not changed the constitution from 7 to 5 years or tenure of president. Maybe the guy just woke up one morning and discovered that, wow, 12 years is over. I'm supposed to be on a 12-year, I'm supposed to be on a 14-year mandate. Why did I just change this thing? Oh my God. Okay, let me think what to do to extend it. The same thing had happened with every leader of African country. There's a difference between 6 and 9. It depends on where you are standing. Usually, when you are campaigning for positions, you are saying 6. By the time you take the oath, you begin to see 9. It was the same figure, but it just moved from one position to another. Why I think that Faye will perform quickly is because he knows the enormity of the burden that is on him. He knows how the people of Senegal took away WAD in 2012, who had all the state apparatchik, who had all the state institutions at his disposal. He knew how the people organized against Macky Sall, who has all the institutions at his disposal, who even had the National Assembly, who voted to move election to December 15th. He knows that if he messes up, the same people, the same power of the people will go against him. And because he don't want to go that route, among the things he said, like Imoh has already stated, is interested in fighting corruption. There were things he said during campaign about renegotiating signed document, oil marketing and all of that. That may not go ahead quickly because in his keynote speech before it was formally announced, among the things he also said was that he was going to work towards the unification of the country. He was going to work towards harmonization. Which word is it? I'm looking for the key word. He was going to work...
Reconciliation. Reconciling.
Reconciliation.
Reconciliation. Yeah. Key. Reconciliation. And for me, that reconciliation is the key word. And if you see what happened yesterday, Macky Sonko went to meet with Faye and Sonko went to see the president. It for me is a part of the mood for reconciliation. Macky Sall would have exposed to him that all the things you said while you were on the other side, these are not exactly what you should do. If you go this route, you are going to fail. Apparently, Macky Sall would have had a closed door meeting to say, if you go this route, you are going to have the wrath of the people. Adjusting deals are not an easy task. But quickly, is that there were comments he also made that every agreement will be in the best interest of the Senegalese people. That it was going to follow Africanism, Afrocentricism in his foreign policy, public policy work, meaning that bilateral institution, multilateral institutions, partnership. We have to be in the best interest of Senegalese. Now, Senegal is going to be an oil-producing country. Yet, there's a high level of unemployment. Yet, a price of fuel is higher than in Nigeria. Yet, poverty still strives in the country. Yet, the living standard of people is low. These are the things that this guy will run into. We quickly address. If we become oil producing and we are producing XYZ, what's the best resource we can commit to? And let me state without equivocation, he cannot do this without Sonko. I'm sorry to say, we have to say something about Sonko. It is a fake. The failure of Faye will be the failure of Sonko, and that's the truth.
Okay, let's talk about Sonko now. Let's talk about Faye, let's talk about Sonko. But let's talk about Sonko first. Think back to that 49-year-old man. He's 49 now. He's been at this for 10 years or so? Okay. Now, he finally gets his second opportunity to run, and he is really popular. But he's suddenly disqualified from running. Now he's having to play kingmaker, which was not his intention before. All right? Imoh, I'm going to come to you first. What makes you think, and this is a really serious question for me, and I think for a lot of people, I've spoken to a lot of African intellectuals, political watchers, etc. Why do you think Sonko is going to be okay, happy with playing kingmaker from the back rather than achieving what his ambition was, which was to be the king?
This is one argument that most newsrooms have been arguing the last couple of days. What role Sonko is going to be playing, and we all know clearly that Sonko will not want to take the role of a prime minister. He will not want to do that. Sonko will see himself higher than that position, and even as the president. Now, in their mantra during their campaign, they were telling the Senegalese people, a vote for Faye is a vote for Sonko, which means remove Faye out of the picture, and then when you get to the polling booth, you are seeing Sonko. So that's the picture that is playing out in everybody's head. In terms of decision making, there is no way you will rule out the influence of Sonko. Besides, these were some of the ideas of Sonko. These were some of the things Sonko was fighting for before, he brought on board the likes of Jemai Faye, who was the Secretary General of their party. So there is really no way these decisions will be taken without Sonko not saying, look, why don't you do this? And I bet you at every point, Faye will have to consult with Sonko. I mean, it's natural, and it's normal. I mean, for you to want to consult to your kingmaker and, your godfather, you can't rule that out. There is no decision, there is no step, there is no move that Faye would take without Sonko not coming into the picture. Now, on the flip side, power, like they say, intoxicates. Now that Faye is there, things may change. We may see Faye wanting to form his own cabinet, bringing on board his own close people, his own friends, his own guys on the other end, whereas Sonko also wants his own people to be there. So there may be a little tussle of who's going to take what portfolio, who's going to be where, who's going to do that. And what people are generally saying here is that Jemai Faye may want to run for the first term, and then second term, bring on board Sonko as the candidate of the party. That is what is playing out.
Wow.
It will be 50-50. You go your turn, and when it's time, I do my turn. And that is what will play out.
Okay.
There's a whole lot that we're going to see that will unravel. But again, don't forget, whatever he says or he does, people are seeing Sonko, not him. People are not seeing Faye. They're seeing Sonko. Even all through the campaign, he's not the outspoken type, I must say. When you talk about people who can really, speak and
the
motivate
charismatic,
people,
yes.
Exactly. Sonko has it. So I was not surprised yesterday when they went, the first process of, taking over power. You need to visit the president, and then they have on April 2, they'll sign, and then the president will come back to the palace before all of that, before everything is finally done. So I'm not surprised. Sonko is going to be with him as his right-hand man till maybe when a dispute will come up. Okay. But we're not praying for that. Okay. We're not praying for that. But we know that these things, you really can't help it. His son and the godfather will always clash. And that will inevitably happen.
Okay. Austin, at which point does the 44-year-old president rise? I mean, at which point does he get rid of the so-called right-hand man who's one is very charismatic and is a firebrand, and then you've got Fire who is, much more gentle, much more softer, etc. You have Sonko who's got much more experience. You've got Fire, this is his first time into that big political space and he's won the first time. I mean, at which point, let me take you back because you like history. Do such pairings ever work? I keep thinking of Thomas Sankara and Kampore. Do such pairings ever work? Can their pairing work? You're shaking. Are you nodding a yes or no? Austin, over to you.
I was nodding for body language communication.
I know.
So, arguably, Sankara, I'm happy you brought in Sankara's conversation to this. Let me say it is not really correlated.
Okay.
For me, this is the first time with the political contents I have where someone on the ballot will be arrested, charged, put in jail because you want to stop his presidential bid. While in jail, he nominates an ally to replace him and continue to run on his mandate. And the people did not see Sonko in jail. They saw Sonko on the ballot. We have had one in Nigeria where the senator was in jail and he won as a senator while he was in prison. This is different. The same Fire was also arrested. Charges were dropped on him. In fact, he was also put in prison. The day both of them were released, that was the day election was decided. Or that was the day candidate of the party was decided. The euphoria that went on the street was not an euphoria for Fire, it was an euphoria for Sonko. Because Macky Sall wanted to do a plea bargaining, knowing that this is where the trajectory is going. Either way, even Fire was in prison, he will win from prison, and he will be released automatically at the end of the day. Macky Sall saw the future and quickly went in and came back with some pardon and released them. And today, it is history. The only fear I have is I'll be speaking as a Nigerian, but the Francophone are different set of orientation people. In Nigeria, you are going to have a godfather who will lord it over, who will literally lord it over the patron, the mentee, in this case, Fire. It will tell him everything he will need to do. And in the next 1 month, there'll be conflict between the godfather and the godson. But because, like I told you, this is relatively a new narrative in our political history. Now the two of them are out from prison. Not that Sonko is still in prison. Two of them won the election. They won the election. Fire ran on the goodwill and popularity of Sonko. Fire literally may not separate himself from Sonko. But a time will come in history where Sonko will become unbearable.
Exactly.
Where Sonko will be taking decisions that Fire will not like to take, because at the end of the day, it is a government of Fire, not the government of Sonko. But that's where the men, these two individuals, just 5 years between, 44, 49. In fact, in our landscape in Nigeria, if you're under 50, you are the same age. There's no difference. So 45 and 49 is actually age mate. It's actually age mate. But I think Fire need to sit with Sonko because it was a different ball game when campaign was on. Now that victory has come, they need to sit together and work out a plan for the country, a 5-year plan that both of them will agree on. Who will be this? Who will be that? What kind of foreign policy are we going to entail? Who will be our ally? Are we going to pursue France? Are we going to stick with, there's a training video going on now. People are just misinforming the
general
community.
Public, yes.
Are we going to come out? Are we going to come out now to say that we do not have problem with France? However, France must respect our national policy.
Sovereignty.
Are we going to run with sovereignty? Are we going to run with the United States? Are we going to be close to? Are we going to carry ECOWAS on our head? These are some of the things that Sonko and Faye need to agree to do. In any case, even Sonko only had a campaign promise. There's a difference between campaign promise and reality on the ground. The truth of the matter is that even the Nigerian president, if you ask him one-on-one behind the scene, he will tell you that he did not know that the enormity of the challenge of being president of Nigeria is not like this. It's always
Indeed. It's never what you expect or what you see from the outside. Lagos, Nigeria, wherever you're listening from, you can send in WhatsApp messages 0809-597-5805. Well, I'm waiting for Austin's line. Right, Austin's line is back.
That was
Austin, we're having issues with your line, I'm afraid. 0809-597-5805. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now. You're back. We keep losing the line. Oh, we've lost it again. Right, we're streaming live on nigeriainfo.fm. We're streaming live on YouTube as well and Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3. Luckily, I still have my other guest, Imoh, with me. And Imoh has plenty of questions to answer. Don't worry. He's lucky that this is a debate. Because last week. But so let's go back to it. You know, as Austin was saying earlier, and it is true, most people, without being negative, okay, without being pessimistic, when somebody follows you around like a shadow and isn't, it continues to feel a bit overbearing, doesn't it? And especially when you've got to face the international community as a leader, as one of their peers, as an African leader, how does he unwield himself from the Sonko shadow?
I think it's going to take a whole lot of deal, like Austin mentioned. It will take a whole lot for him to really disengage much of himself from Sonko. Really, he may not be able to really do much more without the influence of Sonko. Talking about his presentation in the international community. Obviously, the West will see him as being manipulated by Sonko. You can't rule that out. You can't rule that out. But it would really need that will, that power, that ability to be able to, draw the line at some point. Yes, I am riding on your mandate. Yes, your people voted me in. But again, you also need to understand that, look, I am the president of the country, and you are not. Sonko also needs to understand that.
But is he going to understand that? That's the question. Is Sonko ready to accept that?
That is where everybody is waiting for. I told you earlier, most newsrooms here, that is the debate right now. Will he be able to disengage himself from Sonko? Will he be able to make key important decisions without the influence of Sonko or without consulting Sonko? There are strong decisions that he will need to take. Looking at the fact that they talked about disengaging France,
the currency.
The currency. I was just about to say that bringing the other 7 in the WEMU members to strengthen the CEPAs and make the CEPAs perhaps at par with the euro. If he plans to do that, why not? But it will take a whole lot. He may not be able to shake off Sonko for now. Maybe into the second year, perhaps the third year, he may be able to do that. Because I see a lot of internal rancor, coming up. The same thing that happened when Macky Sall had the issues with Amadou Ba and the other key party members. As a matter of fact, and part of why I said earlier, or last week when we spoke, was that this internal party thing with Macky Sall, Amadou Ba, and the rest, it was a 50-50. I remember saying it was 50-50, yes, because they already had issues in the party. 3 other candidates came up with Amadou Ba making 4, and Macky Sall wasn't really in good terms with Amadou Ba, even if he was the prime minister. But eventually, few days to the election, they got along and, okay, let's see what we can do. But they couldn't do anything.
Indeed.
So if you check the whole lot, and we're just hoping that this will not scatter the country.
Okay.
But definitely this will divide the population. Because now, people like, okay, people may want to fall out with Jamai Pai because they are so loyal. I mean, in this country, they're so loyal to Sonko that they see Sonko as a mini god.
Wow.
They see him as a mini god. Even as low as the kids in primary school, they sing Sonko, they drink Sonko, they do Sonko, everything.
Wow.
I mean, so it's quite unfortunate that at the end of the day, he didn't turn out to be the president.
Yes.
Because if he was the president, I think there would have been more noise than what we are seeing now. So let's look into the future. There's a lot of problems that will come up internally between Jamai Pai and Usman Sonko.
Thank you. Austin, you're back. We lost your network for a second there. Let me ask you, do you think Faye has he might not have the experience, but does he have the intelligence, the wherewithal, the capacity to be able to carry Senegal forward, especially facing the international community? Austin, are you there?
This question will always come. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. This question will always come about experience, always experience issue. Let me. Is 44-year-old, 44. Ideally, a 44-year-old, with all due respect, who has been a tax collector or a tax administrator, who has been a secretary of a political party, who has been complaining of a regime. What next would you expect from that individual? What is being a leader? It is important we fragment what leadership is. Leadership has nothing to do with your age. Even though there's a difference between a child and an adult. If you are going to be talking about experience, you would have talked about even the current president, Macky Sall. What did he do with his age? What has the president of Cameroon done with his age? What has the president of Equatorial Guinea, who has been president of Equatorial Guinea since 1979, when we were still wearing papas on the street? As I speak to you now, I can rule Nigeria. I can administer the affairs of Nigeria. So there's no big deal about his experience. What it means is to be a leader. What is leadership? Leadership is the ability to see the future. Leadership is the ability to influence others to do the job you want them to do. Leadership is about carrying people along, knowing the right hole and knowing the right peg to pin on it. That's why I told you about Sonko and Faye working towards a plan and running on that plan. If they don't have a plan, there's going to be a crisis in the future between now and 3 months' time. There will be anarchy in the leadership. Rumor will start coming out that Sonko and Faye are no longer working together. There is no problem with his experience. He's a man, he's married, he has children, and for Christ's sake, what does it mean to interact with the international community? It is projecting a plan. This is where we want to go. All of us speaking today, you are speaking today, you have the privilege on sitting on the council and speaking to the global community. People are watching you from all over the world by the help of Zoom. This is leadership. This is leadership. Leadership beyond this is to know that you need an Austin. If you are made president, if you are president of Nigeria tomorrow, You need an Austin. Apparently, is very good in talkative. He has a talkative degree. You give him a position of talking. You see Imoh. Imoh is very good in radio. You give him a radio position. You look for the right people. And what the right people help you do as a leader is to help you stabilize, and you take their advice. Even the American president, who is close to 90, he still had issues administering the United States. After taking over from Donald Trump, America is still finding it difficult. Living standard of Americans has gradually snowballed. If that is in the United States, where you expect that the old man with his experience will deliver good, even the presidency of Barack Obama as a young man is far better than Obama. In fact, it's far better than that of Trump. And today, that of Biden, a young man knowing what to do is the best for African nation today. We need more young people to go into politics. We need more people to hold position of authority. We need more young people. In fact, let me end by saying the crisis I foresee in Senegal is a crisis of division. And if Faye actually work towards that reconciliation and bringing everybody to the table, I am not going to advocate that Sonko become prime minister or a minister or whatever. Sonko should just be put in a team with the likes of Bar, the likes of all the contestants, all of those, put them in a committee and give them a title, Presidential Advisory Council. Put them there. Before you know what's happening, you'll be loyal to the advisory council as Faye, seek their advice. Once the advisory council takes a decision, you run with it. Okay. By doing that, you are running on the wings and campuses of all of these leaders. You can even include Macky Sall into the advisory council. And before you know what's happening, as a young man, you run the best administration in Africa.
Thank you.
And even make Macky Sall the chairman of that committee.
Well, look, there's a lot happening. I've got messages. Sisi, okay, good evening. Ask your guest the role of election umpire in the Senegalese election. What is the role of the umpire, that's INEC, the equivalent of our INEC, in the Senegalese election? That's Chief Ben from Gwagada. Who wants to take that question?
Well, I think they play the same role like INEC, but it's just that they are supervised by another body. I mean, they have, it's not just the Senate here that organizes the election. They have the Ministry of Interior. They play a key role in organizing the election. They have the Constitutional Council. They also play a key role in the election. So Senate may just be the first phase to pass before the Ministry of Interior, before the Constitutional Council, which is the Lord of them all. So the same role INEC plays is what they organize an election, ensuring that all the right figures are there, the database are there, the candidates are all in place, and those normal things, which the necessary things that are supposed to be done. That's what they do. But like I said, they are being supervised by the Ministry of Interior and the Constitutional Council. We spoke last week that the CC is the highest advisory body made up of retired judges. So whatever the Senate here does, they are being supervised and monitored by the Constitutional Council and the Ministry of Interior.
Okay. Are you still there, Austin? I don't know if Austin's there or if we've lost.
Yes, I think he's back.
Austin, okay, you're back. Okay, great. Austin, here's the thing. I hear what you say about, it's not about age, it's about leadership. Imoh obviously agrees with you. Both of you are young. Both of you are young men who can lead, right? Each one of you would easily qualify, right, to run for elected office in your respective countries, and you're both friends. However, the other thing is, and I've got to comment here, it's not even a question, it's a comment, but I think it's an important comment. The comment is, I congratulate the new Senegal president. Some people in Nigeria have been saying they needed a youth to take over governance. But to me, it's not the issue of age, but it's not the issue of age, but morale and idealism. We have had countries in Africa where youth took over governance, and at the end of the day, it all ended up in a quagmire. That's from Baba Dudu from Edu in Ogun State. Here's what I say. Practically every African leader that has now become a despot or that was a despot got there young.
Oh.
They got there as a young age. So what do we need to do in Africa, right? What can we learn from Senegal to ensure that, honestly, whatever you accuse Macky Sall of, he was out. He's 62, 64. He was out. We need that kind of, how do you say, that change, that cycle to happen, right? How can we ensure that? I'll come to you first, Austin, because we lost you for a minute, and then I'll come to you, Imoh. You both have 2 minutes each.
Quickly, I was going to just respond to the final question about Sena and INEC. INEC has the total responsibility of coordinating election, announcing election, and giving return certificate to candidate to win an election. It's a bit different in Senegal because you have an authority responsible for the conduct of election and an authority responsible for the declaration of the result and sealing it. That's where you have the constitutional court and, of course, the election management body. So it's a bit different. That's part of what we are working towards in Nigeria. That we say, unbundle INEC, unbundle INEC.
Right.
INEC must be truly unbundled if INEC must effectively work. Back to this conversation is that, sorry, I missed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quickly, I missed it.
Okay. My question is, you're both young. Like you said earlier, you are qualified to rule. Ruling is about leadership. It's not about age. We've had many young people who have become leaders in Africa who turn out to be despots, right? Yet, for all the sins of Macky Sall, he left office. He left office. How do we ensure such cycle becomes uniform in Africa, where we're not ending up with 75, 94, God knows, Imoh, stop laughing, 100 years old presidents? Oh, Austin, can you hear me?
I think that is a network issue, but maybe Imoh can.
Yeah, Imoh, go ahead.
Yeah. Imoh, please.
Go ahead.
Let me pick it up. I think basically it's giving young people the opportunity.
There's a network challenge. Hello.
The case may be different in Nigeria because.
Yes, go ahead, Imoh. I can hear you.
Yes, I said the case may be different in Nigeria from what we have here. There's a whole lot of attention given to young persons here in Senegal, in as much as they have a high number of unemployed youth. But again, their voices sometimes make sense. They give them the platform. And that was why, and I'm part of what Sonko saw and decided to pick as a strategy. And that paid off for him. It may be very difficult in Nigeria, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, and countries where you have to be from 60, 70, 80, to be the president. It's there. It's embedded in even the culture of the people. They feel even if you're 40 years old, you're still not mature enough. You're not qualified to be a president. Whereas these people were talking about, what the president also mentioned, Equatorial Guinea, Paul Biya, the rest of them. They all got in when they were in their 30s, late 30s, 40s, and they've been there to now 70 in their 80s and 90s. So it's going to take a whole lot to phase out that generation of leaders who wouldn't want to let go of power. And we also need, strong young people who are ready to take power, and when they take the power, they do the right thing.
Right. Austin, can you hear us now?
Yeah, so maybe the challenge with a country like Nigeria is its own diversity. We can't truly do a comparative analysis looking at both countries from the same angle. Senegal is relatively a small country compared to Nigeria. In fact,
yes,
one state in Nigeria, arguably. And if you look at the numbers, they are predominantly centric around an identity. Islam is literally everything there. Percentile of 2% or 3% for Christianity and all of that. So they speak in selective manner. Why is different in Nigeria where a young person may not be able, 44 in Nigeria may not be able to even contest elections? is because of where you need to traverse to campaign in Nigeria. To run an election in Nigeria is not cheap talk. It's like running an election in the United States, where for you to become a president of America, you have to go through the 50 states, and you must have enough money to fly across the country. The same thing with Nigeria. Arguably, I moved from the airport in Senegal to Banjul, the next door neighbor, next door country. Yeah, you can do that within a day. Within a day, 1 day, you just travel across. In Nigeria, to move from Niger to Lagos, you understand what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely.
That largeness of landmass is a challenge. The peoples are a challenge. The religion, a challenge. The culture, a challenge. However, what we could do as young people is to protect our democracy, is to stand for the rule of law, because the rule of law is far better. Today, what we are enjoying in this country called Nigeria, freedom, if it's taken away, we will regret it. Indeed. The likes of Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, and Niger, when coup took place in those countries, young people went to the street and were getting excited and happy. As I speak to you now, they are regretting their actions. In Burkina, the moment you criticize is a problem. We must continue to work towards our democracy. Sometime in the future, Nigeria will have a 40, 50-year-old as president. It is possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We've run out of time.
And I say amen to that, Ms. Austin. And I say amen to that.
Imoh, you owe us another favor. Remember, you're supposed to get the 7 wise men, at least a couple of the wise men on this show. And now I'm going to expose you to all our millions of listeners. We need Sonko and we need Fire to come on Borderlines. Will you get them? This has to be the first show they speak to on Nigerian soil, please.
We'll try and see how we can get Sonko instead.
Sonko will be great.
Council, they are very neutral.
Let's start with Sonko. Let's start with Sonko. My wonderful producer will be calling you very soon. Austin, Imoh, thank you so much. What an absolutely fabulous debate we've had. We had lots of questions. I can't read all of them. We literally run out of time. Austin, I can't wait to have you guys again. Thank you for giving up your Good Friday to educate us. And I think, if you two people are the hopes of Nigeria, by extension Africa, I still don't get it. What is it that we're doing wrong? What is it? What is it? We have the leaders. They're here.
Yes,
we'll get there.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You'll get some people to speak French.
Say that again.
Thank
you. No, I didn't know what you said about French.
I said you will get Sonko, but prepare to speak French.
Oh, bonjour. I can bonjour with anybody.
I said you will get Sonko, but prepare to speak French.
I will bonjour.
Comment ça va?
Thank you so much. I have to go. It's the 6 o'clock news, and wonderful Yvonne is here. Right, that's Zainab and I signing out. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a wonderful Easter weekend. Lagos, Nigeria. We went borderlines. We went to the Middle East, and we came back to Africa, and we've had a wonderful African conversation all about our democracy. Take care. My name is Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. Be well. Bye-bye.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.